Good evening, Jai Shri Mataji. Dear Sahaja Yogis, brothers and sisters, Jai Shri Mataji, Nirmala Devi. Shri Mataji used to celebrate the birthday of William Blake in England on the actual day and on a few occasions just before or after the day. Today is William Blake's birthday, and Shri Mataji declared that William Blake is an incarnation of Sri Bhairava, and for that reason, we will take the 21 holy names of Sri Bhairava from the Sahaja Yoga mantra book. Sri Mataji considers William Blake one of the greatest prophets of Sahaja Yoga. He prophesied about Sri Mataji coming to England and the building of the New Jerusalem in England. Now let us raise the Kundalini together, please. And now let us put ourselves in Bandhan, please. Shri Ganesha mantra. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Ganesha Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devye Namo Namaha. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Ganesha Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devye Namo Namaha. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Ganesha Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devye Namo Namaha. And now the 21 holy names of Sri Bhairava from the Sahaja Yoga mantra book. Om Tvameva Sakshat Sri Bhairava Sakshat. Om Tvameva Sakshat Sri Bhairava Sakshat Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devye Namo Namaha. O Divine Mother, you are verily Sri Bhairava. Salutations to you. Om Shri Mahabhairava Namo Namaha. You are the great all-powerful Bhairava. Om Shri Batuka Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are ever young. You appear as a young boy. Om Shri Siddha Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the seer, perfect and powerful. Om Shri Kankala Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are adorned with skeletons. Om Shri Kala Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the dark-hued Lord of Death and Time. Om Shri Kalani Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the fire of destruction. Om Shri Yoga Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the Lord of the Divine Union. Om Shri Shakti Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the Almighty Lord endowed with great power. Om Shri Ananda Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the Lord of divine bliss. Om Shri Martanda Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are bright like the sun. Om Shri Gaura Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the Lord of absolute purity. Om Shri Bala Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the mighty Lord who appears as a child. Om Shri Batu Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the celibate youth. Om Shri Smashana Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the Lord of all cremation grounds and cemeteries. Om Shri Pura Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the ancient Lord. Om Shri Taruna Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the Lord of ever youthful vigor. Om Shri Paramananda Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the supreme bliss. Om Shri Surananda Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the Lord who pleases the gods. Om Shri Dhyananda Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the bliss of divine knowledge. Om Shri Uttamananda Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the supreme ecstasy. Om Shri Amrutananda Bhairava Namo Namaha. You are the nectar of divine bliss. Sakshat Shri Adishakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namaha. And now the Sastra Mahamantra. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Mahalakshmi Mahasarasvati Mahakali Trigunatmika Kundalini Sakshat Shri Adishakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namaha. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Kalki Sakshat Shri Adishakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namaha. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Kalki Sakshat Shri Sahasrara Swamini Moksha Pradayini Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Mataji.
Please. It is such a pleasure today and great fortune that here where William Blake lived, and he sang those songs of greatness, of the greatness of this country, the future that it has to be, the dreams he saw have now come to shape. That we are here to celebrate his anniversary. Things go beyond words and you cannot express yourself. Many people do not understand him because he wrote it according to them in abstract language or in the language that he understood. But I'm happy that Sir Yogis understand him so well. And the prophecies that he made about England. People used to ridicule it. Even today they can't believe that Jerusalem can be built in England. We cannot believe that people who have been all their lives for ages together thought of nothing but materialism can take to spirituality to this extent that it becomes Jerusalem and that the whole world comes to pay homage to this holy land. That this becomes the holy land. It's a fact. He dreamt, he wished it, because he knew the value of this land. This land has been touched by Christ's feet. Since long, people knew about Kundalini. Even if that is lost, for history, it remains. And he knew about it. He spoke about it in his lifetime. Maybe people never understood him. They must have thought that he's really a madman or something, a fantasy, or some sort of a poet who doesn't understand. But what he wrote, every word of it is the truth. Such a great soul should live in Hampstead itself. It's such a blessing. Great. Such people, even if they write or not, they leave their mark. Their ascent becomes the milestone for the people who live there. The aspirations become different, their priorities become different. The change is so subtle. It's to be seen, to be felt, to be understood. And very sensitive people only can be born in such places. Of course, there could be very bad people also to counteract it. But the sensitivity of the atmosphere attracts such souls to that place who are sensitive. You can see from his poems that he was absolutely authoritative. He knew the authority. He had the authority. He talked like a man with complete authority. He had no doubt in it. He has no doubts. He just said this is going to happen. And like a great warrior, that he knew that one has to fight the negativity, one has to fight all these dark problems. The spirit has to fight all the time the matter. And that's how he talked, spoke, wrote. A warrior would do, because he started the fight when he was born 100 years back. And to me, he is very great because he said all these things. He prepared the stage for Sahaja. Because he wrote all these things, we can say that this was all said. Because human beings are such, unless and until it is said before, they are not going to listen to you. They will ask you, what is the reference for what you are saying? We have to give reference for everything. See, whatever is written according to them is scripture, which is the last word. Whether the book is published in any trash place doesn't matter, but it's published already. It's such a great thing he's done. But he's not done it for any material gain or for any fame or anything that is very superfluous. But he's done for something that is very eternal. And that is the awakening of human beings. That is their second birth. That is the knowledge of the Spirit. These words cannot come from a man who is a weakling, who is a doubting fellow, who doesn't know where he stands, who is confused, who is a drunkard, or who is an alcoholic, sort of a gone case or a madcap. Cannot come. And it cannot come from an egoistical man who thinks no end of himself. A man who dominates others, who believes in robbing other countries and going to other countries and rob them and go to another house and rob them. Not from such people. It comes from a person who knows the value, the soil on which he is born, the spiritual value of that, not the material value. And it's so subtle, every word is so subtle, that it's like a chanting. It's like a chanting. You are specially blessed because such a great poet was born in this country. And wherever I go in my series of lectures, at least in one lecture I always mention he has gone into great details, just like Markandeya, another great poet in India who was born thousands of years back. But to realize that this country is the heart of the universe, and here the Jerusalem is going to be. Nobody could have thought 100 years back a thing like that. It's fantastic actually. Even 30 years back nobody could have understood it. Even I would say 10 years back. People would have thought this man is really mad to call this as the Holy Land. It is today the Holy Land. You can see that. Because so many people have got realization in this country. And you are the one who circulate everything. It is the heart. Whatever the English do, whether right or wrong, it all circulates. Though they don't understand their responsibility. Because they don't know it is the heart of the universe. If you do wrong or right, the whole world does that way. People think that among all the Western countries, you are the wisest. That's what they think. I don't know how far you come on. They believe. It's English, see. Even Arabs. If you say it is English, they believe. How far it is true, God knows. And the values that he cherished, the dreams that he saw, and the aspirations he had were so great that one has to know that there must be something in this land that he aspired. He was not mad in any way. Nowhere, no poet in any country has written like this. It was given him the chance, the authority to say it. That means you must circulate. Circulate with a heart that circulates, caters, looks after the whole body. And once it collapses, the whole body collapses. It's not so. the English heart has to become the heart of William Blake. And not the chicken-hearted one, or the aggressive one, or the hatred-filled pockets, or the hateful ones. Because the blood flows through you to realize this, to understand this. The responsibility of an Englishman is very, very great. In the heart resides the spirit. Sahaja yogis know this, that till a certain stage it resides in the heart. So it's a very, very great position you occupy, so that you people become aware. It is important also that you are the cell, the important cells of the heart. Heart doesn't think, does it? It does not think, it loves. It loves. When you think, you must know you are not Englishman as described by William Blake. But if you love, you are. And love doesn't mean personal love or carnal love or all kinds of ideas of love is charity work. It means the love of the spirit which is awakened within you, which just emits love. Which just emits. It doesn't think, it just emits. It doesn't think that whether it should give to the black or the white, whether it should give it to the rich or the poor. It just loves. It flows. And that is why one should get realization in England. Very important. Without realization, you cannot flow, you cannot give. You will never understand the value of giving. You will never enjoy giving. You will never know the beauty of generosity unless and until you become the cell of the heart. You are the cell of the heart. It's the most important position, as I told you. It's the most vital particle of that heart. And the one who is the heart has to be like a lion. He roared, actually roars. If you read these things, like a lion he roars. He has to be like a lion and not to be frightened, like English language is, I am afraid. It starts with I am afraid and ends with I am afraid. What are you afraid of? Every person is afraid of you. What are you afraid of? You have to change your language. You have to speak like him. The Sahaja yogis have to speak like William Blake, the way he spoke about his great country, about the soil in which he was born, about the people who will be born here, who will be Sahaja yogis. He described them so well, that men of God will be born on this soil. Men of God. Special people. The chosen ones, not those who have branded themselves as chosen. Most of the chosen ones are going towards the hell only. But the really chosen ones will be born on this soil. And they will become prophets. Not only that, but they'll have a special power to make others prophets. He saw this. At that time he could see that you all are going to become prophets and that you all are going to make others prophets. Like one enlightened light enlightens another. He could see it so clearly. What a clear heart he must be having. What a clear vision he must be having. What a clear brain he must be having to receive all this information about it. So you have to become, is the point. You may be God's people, but you have to become a prophet. Unless and until you are a prophet, what's the use of choosing you also? What's the use of your being born here? You all have to become prophets. And to become a prophet, Kundalini has to be awakened, you are to be realized, and you get these special powers to realize others. People can't believe that in Sahaja Yoga today, if you get realization, you can give realization to others. When I went to Rome, the people had this doubt I felt. When I said that, next moment you can give realization to others. And they just could not believe it, that they can feel the Kundalini, they can give realization. It's too much to believe it. It's too fantastic. So, the last day, I said, all those who have felt the cool breeze, that stand behind the people who have not felt the cool breeze. They're very nice people, I must say, these people in Rome, because I think they have reached the conclusion of complete frustration with their seeking. So they stood up behind each of one of them. And they were amazed. They could raise the Kundalini, they could give realization. They said, Mother, we got realization only yesterday, some of them. I said, so what? You could have done it yesterday, but today you are doing is rather good. You could have done it immediately, but this is what it is, fantastic. So there is no place for you to have any doubts. Don't waste your energy in doubting. You have done that bit too much. Bit too much. Now the time has come for you to get your realization, to get enlightened, to understand. But there are still people who are on the fence. And they are neither this way or that way. And Christ has described them very well. He said, I don't mind hot or cold. I mean, the people who get the cool breeze, of course, they are first class. Even those who get hot are all right, because they would like to get rid of their hot. But the halfway I don't like, I'll spit them out of my mouth. The ones who go 3 steps forward and 4 steps backwards, such people are really a headache to Sahaja Yoga. If they get out, it is much better. Half-hearted people in Sahaja Yoga are of no use, which was told by Christ long time back. But I don't know if people really realize it or not. And this is the problem I have faced in this country bit too much. The maximum in this country, to be very frank. The ego is of a subtle nature, such a subtle nature in this country. Every country has a different type. Like we can say in Spain, it is like the bullfighting. In Rome, it is the artist ego. They think they are great artists. They have a sense of beauty. All sorts of things. But
Glimpses of Sahaja Yoga in William Blake's paintings. Part 2. Dedicated to Her Holiness Sri Mataji Nirmala Devi, founder of Sahaja Yoga. In Part 1 of Glimpses of Sahaja Yoga in William Blake's paintings, we already looked at some obvious Sahaj motifs that appear in Blake's paintings. We covered topics such as paintings where Blake shows people feeling the vibrations in their hands, putting their hands above the Sahasrara, stars or angels above the Sahasrara, etc. Here, in part 2, we will continue with the same theme, but this time we will look at paintings by William Blake about chakras, deities, spirals, and the Kundalini. We did not know there were so many Sahaja Yoga motifs in Blake's paintings until Sri Mataji showed us. She held a book of paintings of William Blake in her hand and told us to feel the vibrations coming from the paintings of William Blake, and showed us all the many motifs of Sahaja Yoga within Blake's paintings. This took place at Sri Mataji's residence in London, 1984. There were several Sahaja Yogis present. According to Sri Mataji, some writings of William Blake are all about Sahaja Yoga, and Blake is a great prophet of Sahaja Yoga. Table of Contents. Chapter 1. William Blake's prophecies about Sahaja Yoga. Chapter 2. About chakras. Chapter 3. 7 chakras and 7 deities. Chapter 4. Spirals and Kundalini. Please note, all the paintings, sketches and engravings in this slideshow are by William Blake. Chapter 1. William Blake's prophecies about Sahaja Yoga. 2 extracts from Her Holiness Sri Mataji's lectures. First extract. This is the blossom time, which has already been prophesied by William Blake. Second extract. Nobody could be more precise than Blake. He was so great to say this will happen, and this is what we have to expect. William Blake could see hundreds of years back the workings of Sahaja Yoga, and today we can see the actualization. An extract from Sri Mataji's lectures. William Blake prophesied that men of God would become prophets and would have powers to make others prophets. In a prophetic book entitled Milton, a poem in 2 books, Blake wrote his famous hymn Jerusalem, starting with the well-known lines seen at the top of this picture. And did those feet in ancient time walk upon England's mountains green? Looking to the very bottom of the picture, in Blake's handwriting we can read the biblical quote, "Would to God that all the Lord's people were prophets," and Blake gives us the reference. He has written Numbers, 11th chapter, 29th verse. This picture is entitled The First Sight of the Spiritual World. It is an early drawing by William Blake featuring the prophet Moses, whom we can see standing, and his disciple Joshua, kneeling beside Moses. In the book of Numbers, chapter 11, verse 29, Moses says to his disciple Joshua, "Would to God that all the Lord's people were prophets." In a modern Bible, this translates as, "I wish the Lord would give his Spirit to all his people so that everyone could be a prophet. As we saw previously, this last line of the hymn Jerusalem, as written by Blake, is a line not set to music and therefore never sung. If we read chapter 11 of Numbers, we get the full story of a rare occurrence when a prophet, Moses, makes others prophets. In fact, Moses created 70 prophets at the same time by giving them an experience of en masse self-realization. William Blake prophesied that men of God would become prophets. Blake foresaw that the building of the New Jerusalem in England would take place through en masse self-realization. Note in the picture, the lady is touching the Sahasrara of the central figure, and the whole scene is set in a Stonehenge-like landscape in England. In the blossom time of Sahaja Yoga, the seekers of truth, the men of God, are getting realization en masse. They are becoming prophets, and they have powers to make others prophets, meaning that they can give self-realization to others. This painting is plate number 100, the last page of a long poem by William Blake entitled Jerusalem, the Emanation of the Giant Albion. A Sahaja Yoga meeting of self-realization in India. The seekers of truth are getting their self-realization en masse in England and all over the world, as prophesied by William Blake. Sri Mataji talks about William Blake's prophecies of Sahaja Yoga in several of her lectures. For example, in 1980, Sri Mataji said, "And to understand why London and why England, you better read Milton by William Blake. He has prophesied that England is going to be the Jerusalem, that it is going to be the pilgrimage. He has described everything that is Sahaja Yoga. It's a wonderful prophecy. You better read it to understand. It is even described where the ashram would be, in Lambeth Vale. He has described that first it will start in Surrey Hills, where I first came and stayed. And he has described in the end how the Virgin herself is going to work it out, how the Mother is going to work it out. It's all beautifully done. You had such a great poet like Blake, who has already guided you. Better take guidance from him." William Blake's prophecy mentioned by Sri Mataji about the Surrey Hills and Lambeth's Vale comes from Milton, a poem by William Blake, plate 4 of copy A. Blake writes, "The Surrey Hills glow like the clinkers of the furnace. Lambeth's Vale, where Jerusalem's foundations began, where they were laid in ruins, from every nation, and oak groves rooted. Dark gleams before the furnace mouth, a heap of burning ashes. When shall Jerusalem return, and overspread all the nations? Return, return to Lambeth's Vale, O building of human souls." In Jerusalem, plate 41, lines 15 to 21, we see that for Blake, Lambeth is a sacred place, a temple or an ashram. Could it be the temple within, the sacrum bone or the kundalini? Could it be all of them? In Blake's mythology, Uthun is the young virgin. Therefore, she is comparable to Sri Gauri or to the Kundalini. Blake writes, "There is a grain of sand in Lambeth that Satan cannot find, nor can his watch fiends find it. It is translucent and has many angles, but he who finds it will find Uthun's palace, for within, opening into Bula, every angle is a lovely heaven. But should the watch fiends find it, they would call it sin, and lay its heavens and their inhabitants in blood of punishment. Here, Jerusalem and Vala were hid in soft slumberous repose." On plate 84, lines 1 to 4, of Jerusalem, there is another reference to Lambeth as a place for building a temple and for the beginning of the foundations in Lambeth. Blake writes, "Highgate Heights and Hampsteads, to Poplar, Hackney and Bow, to Islington and Paddington, and the brook of Albion's river, we builded Jerusalem as a city and a temple. From Lambeth we began our foundations. Lovely Lambeth." Building the first temple or ashram of Sahaja Yoga in the UK is equivalent to establishing the foundations of Sahaja Yoga. Such a temple or ashram was rebuilt in the borough of Lambeth at Chelsham Road in southwest London. Chapter 2. About Chakras. Christ vibrating the Agnya Chakra. Blake's vision of Christ interceding on behalf of Adam and Eve during their expulsion from paradise. A finger on the Agnya Chakra. This is one of Blake's illustrations to Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. Here, Christian is met by the three shining ones. The three shining ones are like Trigunat Mikar. Note the ego balloon and the Hamsa chakra in this caricature. In fact, this is a caricature of William Blake by Blake himself. Christ sitting in the Agnya chakra. This picture is famously known as the Ancient of Days, a reference to Christ as the Alpha and the Omega. Sri Mataji commented about this painting. Christ is in the Agnya chakra, pushing down the ego and superego of mankind. The baby Jesus sitting on the Agnya chakra and pushing down the ego and superego. This illustration is an allusion to the life of Saint Christopher. Saint Christopher used to help travellers cross the river by carrying them on his shoulders. One day the child Jesus appeared to him in disguise and asked to be carried over the river on the shoulders of the saint. Christ as the deity of the Agnya Chakra and gateway to the Sahasrara. This painting is called Christ in the Sepulchre Guarded by Angels. The two angels and their raised wings represent the two petals of the Agnya Chakra. The archway behind represents the Sahasrara. On Christ's resurrection, the two angels separate, signifying the opening of the Agnya Chakra and gateway to the Sahasrara. Catching on the Agnya Chakra and on the Rudras. Two theologians arguing about religious dogmas. Catching on the Agnya Chakra. The infidel arguing against the immortality of the spirit. Vishuddhi Chakra and the myth of guilt. Pulling the ears down to ease the pressure on the Vishuddhi Chakra. The Heart Chakra. Open thy heart. Three angels or three deities in the heart. Blake's illustration to a line of poetry by Edward Young. The opening of the Sahasrara Chakra. At length for hatching ripe he breaks the shell. A bird first is born as an egg, and later is reborn as a bird. For this reason, a bird is called twice born in Hindu culture. Similarly, after a disciple gets initiation from his guru, he is called twice born or Dvija. Sri Mataji explained that the reason we give eggs at Easter is to celebrate Christ's rebirth through his resurrection. Here, Blake used the bird Dvija newborn image by painting the baby Jesus with wings as he comes out of the egg. Jesus said, "You must be born again." Opening of the Sahasrara Chakra. A confluence of ethereal fires poured down by the deity. In his poem, Edward Young refers to the deity. Looking at the top right of the picture, we can see that Blake depicted the deity as consisting of God the Father, God the Mother, and God the Son. This trio is giving realization to the seeker below. They are pouring down the divine blessings onto the Sahasrara of the seeker. The triangular sacrum bone at the base of the spine. The Assumption of the Virgin Mary, or Sri Gauri, watched over by the baby Jesus or Sri Ganesha. It was understood that the physical body of the Virgin Mary did not suffer from corruption upon death, but ascended to heaven. In this picture, The Virgin Mary stands within a transparent triangle, while the baby Jesus is above within a sphere. Note how Blake shows the Virgin's body set within an inverted triangle, similar to the triangular sacrum bone at the base of the spine. In the Hindu tradition, the sacrum bone corresponds to the chalice or vessel known as kumbha. Sri Mataji teaches that within the sacrum bone resides the dormant kundalini, or Sri Gauri, the Virgin Goddess. In Blake's painting, the Virgin Mary, Sri Gauri, is ascending to heaven, and the baby Jesus, who represents Sri Ganesha, watches over. The Kundalini and the Sacrum Bone. Sir Isaac Newton, studying science at the bottom of the sea. Newton draws a triangle. The paper scroll is like a Kundalini. The sacrum bone, which is the abode of the Kundalini, is represented by the triangle. The Kundalini is outside the triangular area, like a missing link. Newton was unable to decode the puzzle of spiritual life through rational calculations, although he was an intense seeker. At the end of his life, Newton spent almost 20 years applying mathematics to the Book of Revelations, but without success. Chapter 3. 7 Chakras and 7 Deities. The 7 Chakras. A Vision of the Last Judgment by William Blake. The Petworth House version. Starting from the bottom of the painting. 1. Muladhara Chakra, possessed by the dragon of the apocalypse. 2. Swadhisthana Chakra, possessed by the harlot of the apocalypse. 3. Nabhi Chakra and V. Void. 4. Heart Chakra. 5. Vishuddhi Chakra. 6. Agnya Chakra. SE, collective superego, and E, collective ego. 7. Sahasrara Chakra. The 7 Chakras. Another version of The Last Judgment by William Blake. The Pollock House version. Starting from the bottom of the painting. 1. Muladhara Chakra, possessed by the dragon of the apocalypse. 2. Swadhisthana Chakra, possessed by the harlot of the apocalypse. 3. Nabhi Chakra, possessed by Satan. 4. Heart Chakra. 5. Vishuddhi Chakra. 6. Agnya Chakra. 7. Sahasrara Chakra. The 7 Chakras. A sketch of the Last Judgment by William Blake. Starting from the bottom of the painting, 1. Muladhara Chakra, possessed by the dragon of the Apocalypse. 2. Swadhisthana Chakra, possessed by the harlot of the Apocalypse. 3. Nabhi Chakra. 4. Heart Chakra. 5. Vishuddhi Chakra. 6. Agnya Chakra. 7. Sahasrara Chakra. Seven chakras or seven stars. The lady in this illustration represents the woman of the Apocalypse from the biblical book of Revelation, chapter 12, verses 1 to 6. A woman clothed with the sun and the moon at her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. The dragon stood in front of the woman, who was about to give birth. She gave birth to a son. The woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God. Despite being about to flee, the lady appears to have the dragon under her control. Also notice that Blake has given her 7 stars on the head rather than 12 stars. Seven chakras and the tree of life. The Archangel Gabriel and Zachariah. The Archangel Gabriel announces to Zachariah that he will be a father. His son will be St. John the Baptist, who will announce Jesus as the Christ. Christ is known as the tree of life, who came to enlighten the world. Blake has included the golden candelabra, or menorah, rather like a tree of life. It has 7 candles and 2 angels at the bottom. Seven chakras. The Vision of the 7 Golden Candlesticks by St. John of Patmos, author of the biblical book of Revelation. The chakras are represented by 7 stars in the hand of Christ, and by the 7 candlesticks. Blake was commissioned to engrave and copy this design, which had been drawn by another artist. Blake's subtle detailing of the hands and cloud formations bring the engraving to life. Seven deities or 7 angels. Jesus routing the rebel angels. Then war broke out in heaven. Satan was hurled down. He was hurled to the earth and his angels with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, "Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Christ." Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 to 10. Seven spirits of God and 7 seals. In this picture of the 24 elders casting their crowns before the divine throne. Refer to chapters 4 and 5 of the book of Revelation. At the bottom of the picture we have the heads of the 7 spirits of God, with tongues of flame coming out of their sahasrara. On the throne, God holds a scroll with 7 seals. Seven deities, or 7 angels. God answering Job out of the whirlwind. God plus 6 angels in a clockwise formation. Seven deities, or 7 angels. Frontispiece to the Book of Job, invented and engraved by William Blake. Seven chakras and 7 deities. The divine essence from which the 9 spheres originate, one of Blake's illustrations to Dante's Divine Comedy. Note that Blake draws 7 chakras with deities, plus the 2 spheres above the Sahasrara, which comes to 9 spheres in all. Sri Mataji, commenting on our subtle system, said, "There are 7 chakras plus 2 on top, which Blake has described, surprisingly, as 9 centers clearly." Seven deities, or 7 angels. God blessing the 7th day. God plus 6 angels or deities. Seven deities, or 7 angels on both sides. Mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Psalm 85, verse 10. Christ, the figure at the bottom left, is a personification of mercy and righteousness. In Blake's writings, Christ's name is always synonymous with mercy. The Virgin Mary, the figure at the bottom right, is a personification of truth and peace. Traditionally, the Virgin Mary has been hailed as the Queen of Peace. As the Holy Spirit, she is the emissary of truth. These 2 deities together hold a golden cross between them. Jesus said, "And the Father shall give you another Comforter, even the Spirit of truth." Gospel of St. John, chapter 14, verses 16 to 17. Seven chakras, or 7 stars, on the left thigh of Albion. Albion is a personification of Great Britain. In this illustration from Jerusalem, he is kneeling on the ground at the front of the picture. Looking at Albion, the sun is on his right thigh and the moon on his left thigh, representing the right and left side sympathetic channels. The 7 stars or chakras on Albion's left thigh, were all caught up in the left side, because Albion had been sleeping the sleep of death. The three ladies represent Trigunat as the three gunas, namely the Ida, Pingala and Sushumna channels. In his poetry, Blake referred to the Kundalini as the golden string. For instance, when he wrote, "I give you the end of a golden string, only wind it into a ball. It will lead you in at heaven's gate, built in Jerusalem's wall." The lady on the right of this picture is placed towards Albion's left side, and she is crying at the state of Albion's golden string, or Albion's Kundalini. Her compassion moves her to work on him, and we see her winding the string into a ball, raising Albion's Kundalini. The lady on the left of the picture, at Albion's right side, is working on him just with her attention, to bring his Kundalini up to the Sahasrara. Her index finger points towards the fontanelle area of her Sahasrara. Finally, the lady in the center showers the grace of self-realization on Albion. The poem Jerusalem unfolds during a mythological time when the giants lived amongst the rocks. This explains the strong, stony physique of the characters. Chapter 4. Spirals and Kundalini. Myriads of Kundalinis and vibrations seen in this miraculous photograph, taken looking towards the stage during a Sahaja Yoga music program in Ganapatipule, India. The serpent as a symbol of the Kundalini. The Kundalini is a spiritual energy that rises within the central nervous system in a spiral shape, like a coiled serpent. In the traditional interpretation of the Book of Genesis, the serpent became synonymous with temptation. However, in Hinduism, the serpent can be used as a symbol of the Kundalini, thus worthy of worship. A serpent or spiral of the Kundalini. Eve and the serpent. In this painting of Eve and the serpent represents the spiraling Kundalini. A serpent or spiral of the Kundalini. Moses erecting the brazen serpent. And the Lord said unto Moses, Make a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. When anyone who is bitten by a serpent looks at it, that person will live. Book of Numbers, chapter 21, verses 5 to 9. A spiral or Kundalini. The Kundalini as the manuscript of heaven. Showing a scene from the Last Judgment in Blake's illustration to a line of poetry by Edward Young. A spiral or kundalini. Ezekiel's vision of the cherubim and eyed wheels. A whirlwind was coming, a great cloud with raging fire. From within it came the likeness of 4 living creatures. Each one had 4 faces and 4 wings. A wheel was on the earth beside each living creature, as it were, a wheel within a wheel. The rims were so high, they were awesome and full of eyes. The spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Above the firmament, over their heads, was a throne with a man of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. Ezekiel chapter 1, verses 4 to 28. A spiral or kundalini. Ezekiel's vision of the wheels of the living creatures. From Blake's illustration to a line of poetry by Edward Young. Orb above orb, circle in circle, wheel within wheel. A spiral or kundalini. The parable of the Good Samaritan. Blake shows the Good Samaritan with a cup in his hand, like the Holy Grail, and on that cup a serpent or kundalini motif. The spiral of the kundalini. Christ's third temptation. Gospel of St. Matthew. Blake's vision shows on the right, next to Christ, the big spiral of the kundalini overcoming Satan. A spiral in the shape of Sri Ganesha. The expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. Epilogue of James Hervey's Meditations upon the Tomb. A spiral path with deities and biblical patriarchs along the way, culminating in a figure of God sitting in judgment at the very top. A spiral or kundalini. Jacob's ladder. And Jacob dreamed, and behold, there was a ladder set up on the earth, and it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place. This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Genesis chapter 28, verses 11 to 17. The sun at the top of this painting is a symbol of Jesus Christ. And Jesus said, I am the gate. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved. Jesus said, Very truly, I tell you, you will see heaven open, and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. Jesus is the Son of Man, and the gate of heaven. The Kundalini will only enter into the Sahasrara, or heaven, when Christ at the Agnya Chakra allows the Kundalini to pass through. In this painting, The Heavenly Dream of Catherine of Aragon, a spiral of angels is seen crowning the head of Catherine of Aragon as she lies on her bed, seen here in the lower center of the painting. The Kundalini-like spiral starts from an inverted triangle similar to the shape of the sacrum. The triangle is created by 4 angels at the very bottom of the painting, plus the reclining Catherine. Milton controlling the elements. This image is the frontispiece to Milton, a poem, in 2 books, by William Blake. An extract from a lecture of Sri Mataji. In Sahaja Yoga, you can use the vibrations on your hands to control the elements, stop the rain, or change the direction of the wind. End of Part 2 of Glimpses of Sahaja Yoga in William Blake's paintings. To follow next time, Glimpses of Sahaja Yoga in William Blake's paintings, Part 3. Part 3. Paintings of deities. This includes Sri Ganesha, Sri Bhairava, Jesus Christ, Athena, Trigunatmika, the Adi Shakti, the Holy Spirit, and other deities.
Good evening, Jai Shri Mataji. It's been a beautiful evening, so inspiring and extremely moving, especially to hear Shri Mataji's talk and her eyes and her expression as she heard Jerusalem, this great hymn of the Spirit. And I myself am very grateful to Sri Mataji, because without her, I probably would never have discovered this immense wealth uh, of spiritual culture and knowledge that comes through Blake, because it was indeed one of the first things that I heard in Sahaja Yoga was how Sri Mataji had praised this great saint, this great prophet. And of course, my curiosity was greatly aroused. And after meeting Sri Mataji in May 1983, which completely changed my life, I started to go to ashrams and spend time with the yogis. And there was a lot of talk about William Blake and copies of his poetry. It was a book that was often talked about, the Songs of Innocence and Experience. And my own personal journey of acquainting myself with William Blake began, I think it was in Surbiton Ashram, probably in 1983, when there happened to be a guitar like the one I have here, and on the coffee table or the tea table there was a book of the Songs of Innocence and Experience, and I was eager to sing, and I just took the guitar and the book, opened it up, and started experimenting. And that's one of the beautiful things that Blake, I think, bequeathed to humanity, is he actually inspired, and he left space for personal creativity. Indeed, he is the incarnation of inspired and enlightened creativity itself in so many different media. And he was the multimedia artist of his time. And in fact, there wasn't an art form that he hadn't actually mastered. But he was apparently unfamiliar with the art, or the science rather, of bars and crotchets, according to one of his followers. So although there was great hope that he would write down the music that he composed and created, the melodies that accompanied the Songs of Innocence and Experience, he never did. And I think it was an Oxford undergraduate called Marsh who actually apparently did write them down, but they haven't survived. They just haven't surfaced in academia. So it's a great mystery, but certainly to me it doesn't seem like an oversight, but probably an act of generosity on the part of William Blake to include us in the act of creation, and certainly the act of sharing those songs. So in fact, the angel who inspired Blake to compose the Songs of Innocence and Experience actually instructed him in the introduction to the Songs of Innocence, drop thy pipe, thy happy pipe, sing thy songs of merry cheer. So I sung the same again, and he wept with joy to hear. And then he says, Piper, sit thee down and write in a book that all may read. And he vanished from my sight, and I plucked a hollow reed, and I made a rural pen, and I stained the water clear, and I wrote my happy songs, every child made joy to hear, to hear. So they were designed to be read or sung. They are songs after all. And we know that songs are what Blake wrote leading up to the publication of the Songs of Innocence, the creation of the Songs of Innocence and Experience. In fact, in the poetical sketches, many of the poems are called songs. And in fact, he read and he sung them according to the frequenters of the soirees in the elegant salon of the Reverend Matthews and his wife, when he was asked often to share his creation. So he read and he sang them. And apparently, according to J.T. Smith, and he writes in a book for a rainy day in 1845, Gilchrist writes, Smith added that at Mrs. Matthews' conversaciones, I have often heard him read and sing several of his poems. He, as listened to by the company with profound silence, and allowed by most of the visitors to possess original and extraordinary merit. And in fact, he continued to sing as he created his songs of innocence and experience, as he composed them, as he engraved them. And Bentley says, his a recent researcher of William Blake says that effectively we could say that they were the first way in which these songs of innocence and experience were actually transmitted in song. And what kind of melodies would have accompanied them? Not the sort of the music of the time by Handel or Beethoven, the sort of elite music that, you know, played by symphony orchestras, by orchestras that the normal ordinary folk couldn't actually attend, but the folk tunes and airs that he would perhaps hear in the streets or in the tavern. And he was particularly fond of Scottish airs, Nancy's Hare. And in fact, one of his great friends, Linnell, used to sing them to him, and he wept with joy, apparently, when he heard them. And he sang on his passage from this earthly existence. And apparently his wife says that in his last illness, quote, he welcomed the coming of death. He lay chanting songs and verses, and the music were both the offspring of the moment, so extempore, spontaneous. And on his deathbed, he began to sing hallelujahs and songs of joy and triumph, which Mrs. Blake described as being truly sublime in music and in verse. He sang loudly and with great ecstatic energy, and seemed too happy that he had finished his course. And so music was a part of his life and a part of his creativity. And they weren't actually written down. So, of course, this allowed Parry to create such a beautiful hymn of Jerusalem. Hundreds of others to have created melodies. I mean, The Lamb, which is his most famous poem, has 250 versions that have been recorded, probably more that are not listed. So anyway, I had a go, and it's been my passion and my joy throughout my life, and in fact 40 years of my life, because November 1982 was when I was blessed to meet Sahaja for the first time. In 1983 I met Sri Mataji, so 40 years ago is when I started composing these tunes. And I will begin with the first, which is The Lamb a cappella, and then gradually bring in the music. The Lamb. I'll share the beautiful images that Blake created. Actually, first I'd like to share this picture with you of Blake, and there's a little surprise. Okay. Okay, this is William Blake by this fantastic portrait artist whose name for the moment, very famous. It's in the National Portrait Gallery. And look at his eyes. And this is a screenshot from the video we watched, and Mother's eyes, these eyes of such compassion and vision and concern for humanity, which is what every single poem, every single act of creativity of Blake's actually manifests, and that depth. And so the songs of innocence and experience, as a book, and they were tiny, these engravings, these were tiny, and this is The Lamb. It's worth noting that his wife Catherine helped him in colouring these beautiful copies. Each one was different, apparently. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Gave thee life and bid thee feed by the stream and o'er the mead, gave thee clothing of delight, Softest clothing, woolly bright, gave thee such a tender voice, making all the vales rejoice. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Little lamb, I'll tell thee. Little lamb, I'll tell thee. He is called by thy name, for he calls himself a lamb. He is meek and he is mild. He became a little child. I a child and thou a lamb. We are called by his name. Little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, I am. Well, Little Lamb I Am was extempore from me, but Jesus is the Son of Man. The next song is the nurse's song, and the little child grows up and he plays with other children. There is a sort of sense of the protective embrace of nature, the joy of being in nature, and under the watchful, loving and benevolent eye of the nurse. And it's one of the interesting things about Blake that he speaks in the first person. He enters into the persona of, or the dramatis persona, who is actually narrating and singing to us. So, nurse's song. Voices of children are heard on the green, and laughing is heard on the hill. My heart is at rest within my breast, and everything else is still. Then come home, my children, the sun is gone down, and the dews of night arise. Come, leave of play, and let us away, till the morning appears in the skies. No, let us play, for it is yet day, and we cannot go to sleep. Besides, in the sky the little birds fly, and the hills are all covered with sheep. Well, go and play till the light fades away, and then go home to bed. little ones leapt and shouted and laughed, and all the hills echo where, and all the hills echo where, and all the hills echo where. So these children wanted to stay up and play because, after all, the birds were still flying, the swallows were probably doing their beautiful evening dance, and the sheep were still there, and the nurse says, you know, okay, until the sun comes down, then we must all go home. And there's this sort of sense of there being kind of the mariadas of nature, but they're not rigidly applied. There's a certain amount of leeway for joy and love and laughter. Very different, of course, for the schoolboy who was kind of marshaled into a classroom and sat and had to bear this excruciatingly grim-faced teacher, probably sort of boring them to tears, while outside nature was completely free. And here we have this song of Blake commiserating with the schoolboy with whom he, to a certain extent, identifies. In fact, one could say that nature is always teaching us, and our inner nature, and is there always enlightening us, the living knowledge, which Blake, of course, was trying to share and create, and with the world, and so Blake was also saying, well, I understand how you can get bored, and it happens to me sometimes. This is the beautiful thing of Blake. He really empathizes with every age and type of human being, even children. I love to rise on a summer morn when the birds sing on every tree. The distant huntsman winds his horn and the skylark sings with me. Oh, what sweet company, what sweet company. But to go to school on a summer morn, oh, it drives all joy away. Under the cruel eye outworn, the little ones spend the day in sighing and dismay, in sighing and dismay. Ah, then at times I drooping sit and spend many an anxious hour, nor in my book can I take delight, nor sit in learning's bower. Worn through with a shower, worn through with a dreary shower. Can the bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? How can a child, when fears annoy, but droop his tender wing and forget his youthful spring, forget his youthful spring? Our father and mother, if buds are nipped and blossoms blown away, and if the tender plants are stripped of their joy in the springing day, by sorrow and care's dismay, by sorrow and care's dismay. How shall the summer arise in joy, or the summer fruits appear? Or how shall we gather what griefs destroy, or bless the mellowing year, when the blasts of winter are here, when the blasts of winter are here? Love to rise in a summer morn when the birds sing on every tree. The distant huntsman winds his horn and the skylark sings with me. Oh, what what sweet company, what sweet company, what sweet company, sweet, sweet company. Well, that was the schoolboy. And not everybody was lucky enough to go to school, even if it was a little bit of a kind of a cage for this little schoolboy, just as a bird. But there were also children working in the streets in London at the time that William Blake was writing these poems, and he was extremely alert to the social situation that had been produced by the Industrial Revolution. And this is the chimney sweeper. And he speaks with the mouth, through the mouth of the chimney sweeper. Or he gives voice to the chimney sweeper, rather. I'll just move to the image there. Okay, and zoom in a little bit. Okay. Actually, we can see how it contrasts on the other page with the laughing song. So there was this constant dialectic between innocence and experience, even in the songs of innocence. Mother died, I was very young. My father sold me while yet my tongue could scarcely cry. Weep, 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 weep. So chimneys I sweep and in soot I sleep. There's little Tom Dacre who cried when his head curled like a lamb's back was shaved. So I said, hush Tom, never mind it, for when your head's bare, you know that the soot cannot spoil your white hair. And so he was quiet, and that very night, as Tom was a-sleeping, he had such a sight that thousands of sweepers, Dick, Joe, Ned and Jack, all of them locked up in coffins of black. And by came an angel who had a bright key, and he opened the coffins and set them all free. Then down a green plain leaping, laughing they run, and wash in the river and shine in the sun. Bags left behind, they rise upon clouds and sport in the wind. And the angel told Tom if he'd be a good boy, he'd have God for his father and never one joy, never one joy. And so we awoke and we rose in the dark, and got with our bags and our brushes to work. Though the morning was cold, Tom was happy and warm. So if all do their duty, they need not fear harm. When my mother died, I was very young. My father sold me while yet my tongue could scarcely cry. Weep, 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 weep. So your chimneys I sweep, and in soot I sleep. Ah. I must say, after so many years, these songs never lose their potency, and they always remind me somehow what is still going around and still going on in the world, and in particular children, and in the lives of children who are exploited and sent out to work. And that happens, and it's, it happened in England in the Industrial Revolution, and then it was outsourced later to the empire and the colonies, and still goes on in parts of the world. It's worth reflecting. I remember I had the privilege and honor to perform the songs of innocence, some of the songs of innocence and experience of Sri Mataji in 1986 at the Guru Puja in Gumundan, and it was just amazing. I could actually read the verse and direct the tiger to Sri Mataji, to her lotus feet, as Sri Durga, who was seated upon a tiger. And it was just the most amazing experience. The images of Blake were also projected on a screen, so there was this sort of the visual side as well. And when I came back to the UK, I was living in Lee Street Ashram, and Sri Mataji graced the ashram with her presence. I mean, and she took some food and she rested, and for a moment I was just with her in the salon, in the meditation room, I should say. And again, she talked about the performance and that she enjoyed it, and there should be more of those kinds of performances. Only one thing, she said, could be better, very graciously. There should be more people on stage. And, at the time it had just been me, and I was presenting my university project to her, in fact, in a sort of a costume, and it was just, and everything Sri Mataji says comes to be, and it was my most ardent desire, really, to somehow, that was the kind of thing that had to happen. And many years later, she created a theatre company, and one of its productions was a play, two plays rather, dedicated to William Blake's life and works, written by Tim Bruce, an incredible feat of dramaturgy, I would say, directed by Eric Lauren, with contributions from Vanessa Paya, Purna, and others, and music by Andreas van Engelen, and a tremendous participation from the English collective to make it happen technically, also with resources. And there was just so much love in action, let's put it that way, that it came to be. And in not far from Lambert's Vale, actually in Charing Cross, which is very near the Savoy Hotel, which is on the site where William Blake actually departed. I mean, the point I'm making is that there were about 50 people involved, and there were like 20 people on stage, and it was just, there were actors and dancers and musicians and choreographers and visual artists and it was just a huge collective effort, and as a tribute to Blake, who is perhaps unique in the sense that he spoke about not only the coming of the awakening of Jerusalem and the Golden Age, and foretold Sri Mataji's advent, but he also, I pull my ears if I'm mistaken, but he talked, unlike other prophets, not of our individual dissolution into the oneness, but the awakening of a collective consciousness, that we were a connection with all other created beings and realized souls, that collective consciousness, and this is in the letter to Thomas Butts and the Vision of Light, which will come at the end of this program. But so the collective expression of creativity that took place on the 250th anniversary of his birth in London in the Players Theatre was a manifestation, one could say a manifestation of that work of building Golgonooza and Sastrara. So without further ado, on to the next song, which involves my sons and their childhood friend Amedeo Louvier. So Maxime Bertuni, Leo Bertuni, Amedeo Louvier, and myself singing The Little Boy Lost, which is actually about a rift in the family, a father who abandons his child, presumably like the chimney sweeper, selling his son perhaps, or just abandoning him for whatever reason. And if we could play the video, please, Nitin. The Little Boy Lost. With the audio. Father, Father, where are you going? Okay. Something's happened. I need to just, I'm very grateful for my sons who joined me in this musical adventure and contributed to the beautiful arrangements, and many other musicians, many who are on the albums. Okay. Okay, so I can't get the screen share for the moment. Please forgive me. There's some technical issue. So the next song is The Little Boy Lost from Experience. There are these mirror songs. The one you heard was from A Little Boy Lost. The Little Boy Lost from Innocence, and I'm going to play A Little Boy Lost from Experience. And the little boy is growing up, and you know, he's actually in church, and he comes face to face with another cage, you could say, of indoctrination, and he tries to liberate himself from that, and he is castigated and actually martyred for expressing just simple curiosity, which is chastised by the priest. Anyway, let Blake speak for him. Let the poem speak, the song speak. A Little Boy Lost. Loves another as itself, nor venerates another so, nor is it possible to thought a greater than itself to know. And Father, how can I love you, or any of my brothers more? I love you like the little bird that picks up crumbs around the door. The priest sat by and heard the child. In trembling zeal he seized his hair. He took him by his little coat, and all admired the priestly care. And standing on the altar high, "Lo, what a fiend is here," said he, "one who sets reason up for judge of our most holy mystery. Nor loves another as itself, nor venerates another so, nor is it possible to thought a greater than itself to know. And Father, how can I love you, or any of my brothers more? I love you like the little bird that picks up crumbs around the door." The little child could not be heard. The weeping parents wept in vain. They stripped him to his little shirt and all, and bound him in a iron chain, and burned him in a holy place where many had been burned before. The weeping parents wept in vain. Are such things done on Albion shore? Nor loves another as itself, nor venerates another so, nor is it possible to thought a greater than itself to know. And Father, how can I love you, or any of my brothers more? I love you like the little bird. I love you like the little bird. I love you like the little bird that picks up crumbs around the door. So I suppose one would dedicate that to everybody who has the courage to actually stand up for truth and to speak for truth. The warriors that Sri Mataji was talking about, who have the courage to unequivocally state what they know to be the truth inside, and to actually stand for freedom. And that's happening right now in the world. Very, very brave people, and it's just humbling to know that. And these songs are just so eternal and so present. And the beauty is about them is they get us to reflect, because we can become a little jaded, a little bit sort of, kind of shielded by seeing all these images at a certain point. And Blake didn't sort of put it in our faces. He gently coaxed us into sort of contemplating it. But he not only actually, I think, shows it and denounces it, but he also gives us the healing balm, a sort of the comfort and also the courage and inspiration to maybe act. And these poems are probably directed at the conscience of the adults who read them or sang them to children. Although one imagines what kind of tune could come with these words. So, I mean, evidently his audience was much, much wider than just children. The next song is The Little Black Boy, which contrasts completely with our so-called developing world, and takes us to the world of the southern wild, as Blake calls it, where the little black boy receives maternal education. He receives not only sustenance, but he receives Sophia, the knowledge from his mother about the world and the innate wisdom in creation. The little black boy. My mother bore me in the southern wild, and I am black, but oh, my soul is white. White as an angel is the English child, but I am black as if bereaved of light. My mother taught me underneath the tree, and sitting down before the heat of day, she took me on her lap and kissed me, and pointing to the east began to say, look on the rising sun, there God does live, and give his light and give his heat away. And flowers and trees and beasts and men receive comfort and morning joy in the noonday. And we are put on earth a little space, that we may learn to bear the beams of love. And these black bodies and this sunburnt face is but a cloud and like a shady grove. For when our souls have learnt the heat to bear, the cloud will vanish and we shall hear his voice, saying, come out from the grove, my love and care, and round the golden tent like lambs rejoice. Look on the rising sun, there God does live, and give his light and give his heat away. And flowers and trees and beasts and men receive comfort and morning joy in the noonday. Thus did my mother say and kiss me, and thus I say to little English boy, when I from black and he from white cloud free, and round the tent of God like lambs we joy. I'll shade him from the heat till he can bear to lean in joy upon our Father's knee. And then I'll come and stroke his silver hair and be like him, and he will then love me. Look on the rising sun, there God does live, and give his light and give his heat away. And flowers and trees and beasts and men receive comfort and morning joy in the noonday. Look on the rising sun, there God does live, and give his light and give his heat away. And flowers and trees and beasts and men receive comfort and morning joy in the noonday. So that was a little black boy, and I wish I could have shared it. I'll try to share the screen again. And yes, there we are. And let me see if I can move to this beautiful image. No, it's not moving, unfortunately. Okay, so it's frozen. And okay, but I'll move on with the songs. And there are beautiful copies that are available, facsimiles that everyone should have a copy of. For me, they're like a medicine cabinet for the soul. They just, have a message and on every sort of aspect of our human condition, and they are truly special. And the next one is The Tiger. The Tiger is probably the second most famous poem after The Lamb, and it's particularly inspiring because it's the roar of creation, that roar that Sri Mataji was talking about, the lion, the tiger, this kind of ferocious, how should we say, affirmation, life-affirming affirmation of the truth and of justice, and here it is in all its glory. Although for me the take musically is about awe, the awe for the roar of creation, and here it is. Oh, I wish I could get it on the screen. I'll just have one final attempt. All right. Let's see if we can get. Ah, yes. I think that's it. I think we'll manage this time. I think so. That's it. The tiger. We have the tiger, and here it is. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what what dread feet? What the hammer and what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp? Dare its deadly terrors clasp? On what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? On what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the Lamb make thee? On what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night. I'll go straight on to The Little Girl Lost because we're in this oniric mood. And Blake the prophet actually makes a prophecy within the songs. In The Little Girl Lost in Experience, the journey of the little girl is perhaps through the forest, is our journey through experience and life, trying to find shelter, with courage, though, to venture into the unknown and to put ourselves in the hands of providence and destiny, and to take that leap where you don't know if there is going to be, across the abyss, you don't know if there's a stone there that's going to come and catch your foot, you know, and then with another step, another. You just have to go forward. And at least that's how I see it. The little girl lost is found eventually by her parents, I have to say, in the next poem, but this is the first one. I, prophetic, see that the earth from sleep grave the sentence deep shall arise and seek for her maker meek, and the desert wild become a garden mild, southern clime, where the summer's prime never fades away, lovely like a lay, 7 summers old, lovely like a toll. She had wandered long, hearing wild bird song. come to me underneath this tree. Do father, mother weep? Where can lovely Lyca sleep? Where can lovely Lyca sleep? Lost in desert wild is your little child. How can Lyca sleep if her mother weep? If her heart does ache, then let Lyca wake. If her mother sleep, Lyca shall not weep, shall not weep. Frowning, frowning night, o'er this desert bright, let thy moon arise, while I close my eyes, sleeping like a lay, while the beasts of prey come from caverns deep, view the maid asleep, the maid asleep. The kingly lion stood and the virgin viewed. Then he gamboled round o'er the hallowed ground. Leopards, tigers play round her as she lay, while the lion old bowed his mane of gold, his mane of gold, and her bosom licked, and upon her breast from his eyes of flame ruby tears there came, while the lioness loosed her slender dress, and naked they conveyed to caves the sleeping maid, the sleeping maid. Lost in desert wild is your little child. How can Lyca sleep if her mother weep? If her heart does ache, then let Lyca wake. If her mother sleep, Lyca shall not weep, shall not weep. Jai Shri Mataji. And Shri Mataji came to fulfill Blake's prophecy and actualized the prophecy by awakening the inner energy in humanity. The golden string unraveled and reached the heavens, connecting earth to heaven and heaven to earth, like Jacob's ladder, which actually shows two movements, upward and downward. So we rise and then we bring, actually, the female figures are carrying jars, the kumbhas full of the amrut to share with humanity. But not everybody wants to drink of this nectar, which is what the next song is about. And it's like, open your heart to love before it's too late. This is what the song is about. It's called The Angel. And there are dreams and there are prophecies, and this is a dream apparently. And Blake imagines himself to be a maiden queen, again entering into the dramatis persona, the character that he is manifesting and representing, always with great compassion. The Angel. I dreamt a dream, what can it mean? That I was a maiden queen, guarded by an angel bright. Witless woe was ne'er beguiled, and I wept both night and day. And he wiped my tears away, and I wept both day and night, and hid from him my heart's delight. So he took his wings and fled, and the morn blushed rosy red. I wiped my tears and armed my fears with 10,000 shields and spears. Soon my angel came again. I was armed, he came in vain. For the time of youth was fled, and grey hairs were on my head, and grey hairs were on my head. So yes, this thing about as we age, sometimes the barriers get stronger and we close ourselves in, and Blake is just urging everybody to open up to the angel's message, the calling, if you like, to grow and to ascend and to open the heart and receive love as well as give. And I mean, there is a poem which I kept till last because it's a poem, well, actually, it's about London. But, you know, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that for a moment because we're now coming, I think, to a point where we can see where all this is going, and the uniqueness of Blake's vision, not only his uniqueness, because as a prophet who was also and happened to be an artist, but that his actual vision of and prophecy of human evolution and ascent didn't just culminate in our own, how should we say, becoming one with the ocean, but also becoming one with an ocean that is composed of so many droplets of 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 souls, and who have also received their enlightenment. And the image, actually, which is why I was hesitating, is of light. His image of light, which he talks about to Thomas Butts, his friend. He writes a letter, and he talks about his walk by the overlooking the sea at Felpham, and looking at the sea in the morning and seeing the sun's beams reflected off the water and the light. And then he realizes that these reflections of light are, each one of them are actual human beings, are represent humanity, and then they all come together in one being of light, one single being, and then embrace him. And this is a part of that letter. My eyes more and more like a sea without shore, continue expanding, the heavens commanding, till jewels of light, heavenly men beaming bright, appeared as one man who complacent began. My limbs to enfold in his beams of bright gold, like dross purged away all my mire and my clay. This total dissolution of the ego, this merging into the oneness composed of light, the radiance of light, which is composed of all those beautiful enlightened beings that form part of the collective divine humanity. And I would just like to conclude the tribute and this expression of love and gratitude to William Blake, to Her Holiness Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi, by offering to her what she expressly requested, which was that there should be more people on stage to perform these beautiful works by William Blake. So we leave you with two beautiful recordings from Breath of the Earth, two compositions, one by Dmitry Orlov, sung by Tim Bruce and Sunny Levy, with the Divine Symphony Orchestra, largely an orchestra of Sahaja yogis, who also worked together with the Vivaldi Orchestra from Como in 2015 at Expo, and they will perform Holy Thursday. And after that, Jeremy Clancy's beautiful, inimitable, Sweet Delight, which is kind of, I mean, you know, it's pop, it's rock pop with orchestra. It's just absolutely wonderful, and that concludes the evening. And I hope you will go onto the Theatre of Eternal Values YouTube site to watch the complete William Blake's Divine Humanity performance in London that was performed many years ago in 2007 to commemorate Blake's 250th anniversary. So good night and thank you, Jai Shri Mataji. Happy Blakemas, everybody, and all those who have been part of this evening, and the wonderful artists that are part of this amazing family called Theatre of Eternal Values that Shri Mataji founded. Jai Shri Mataji.
A holy thing to see in a rich and fruitful land, babes reduced to misery, fed with cold and useless hand. Is that trembling cry a song? Can it be a song of joy? So many children is a their sun does never shine, their fields are bleak and bare, their ways are filled with thorns,
every morn and every night. Some are born to sweet delight, but every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Sweet delight, sweet delight, every morn and every night. Some are born to sweet delight, yet some are born to endless night. We are led to believe a lie when we see with but not through the eye, which was born in a night to perish in a night, while the soul was born for endless life. Sweet delight, sweet delight, every morning, every night. Some are born to sweet delight, yeah, some are born to endless night. God appears, God is light to those poor souls that dwell in night, but to those souls who dwell in day, sweet delight, yeah, some are born to endless night. Endless night.